Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. And we're ready for spy on spy action, I think. Who is H6? Some people know, but we don't. We don't know who H6 is. What we do know is that's the code name given to him, and he is a Chinese spy. What's important about this Chinese spy? Well, it seems he's a personal friend of Prince Andrew. He's been in Buckingham Palace. He's been in Andrew's house and in Andrew's company quite extensively. H6 seems to have got the inside track within the establishment, having met the likes of Theresa May, Tony Blair, Boris Johnson, Uncle Tom Cobley and all. He's been feted. He's been celebrated. He's been honoured. He's been guested. And it turns out he was an agent of the Chinese intelligence services. As I say, there's people who know who he is. They know his name. They know all about him. Unfortunately, there's a gagging order. They have been told they're not to mention this because they don't want to embarrass Prince Andrew. I say screw Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew deserves nothing. Prince Andrew may or may not be someone who touches other people's children. I can't say for sure. But certainly it seems like that. Prince Andrew is persona non grata. He keeps a very low profile, and quite rightly too. There are even calls from some that Andrew should lose his beloved title of Order of the Garter. That way he'll have to take his socks off, won't he? Probably does that when he counts. He's not bright by all accounts. But this individual, H6, should be known. It's in the national interest to name him and shame him. And also, I think, to arrest him and question him and see what other information can be glimmered. Perhaps not in Britain. Perhaps he should be taken off-site, where more rigorous questioning can occur. Enthusiastic interrogation, shall we say. Get the goods on him. However, there are calls for him to be named, and Suella Braverman, amongst others, is saying that they need to use parliamentary privilege so that if the order isn't lifted, some politician or other should be able to stand in the House and name and describe this individual. He, as I say, is a close confidant of those in power. And so it absolutely is important that we know who he is and that we know who he's been talking to and what has been discussed. Have national secrets been handed over to the Chinese? If so, that is treason. And I don't care if it is Prince Andrew. He can go to prison. This is a very, very serious article. Now, it's not just Suella Braverman. There's others. Ian Duncan Smith, for example. He's calling for it. As is indeed Nigel Farage. Now, Nigel, our dear sweet Nigel, says that he is prepared to stand in the chamber and name this individual. Now, this guy, H6, was actually banned eventually from entering Britain, and the person who banned him was Suella Braverman. She was Home Secretary, and she banned him on national security grounds. So he must have been seen as a threat then. So why has this been allowed to fester for so long? It's very weird. MI5 has definitely identified him as an agent of the security sources and described him as being involved in, what do they call it, covert and deceptive activities, which is their polite way of saying spying for the Chinese. Now, his identity has been kept secret. Nobody really knows why. He contested a decision by the judges that he should be named. He won his contest saying it would cause embarrassment to people in Britain, meaning people in the establishment up top. And he done that at a special immigration appeals commission. The judges ruled that the Home Office was justified in denying him entry into the UK, but also that his identity needed to be protected. So what they're saying is we need to protect his identity, not because of him, but because of who he's been with. And that indicates a cover-up. It indicates the establishment is trying to protect its own. It also indicates to me that some serious laws have been broken in terms of handing over information, and they don't want this to become public. It may anger the nation. Too bloody right, it angers the nation. This has got to come out. So anyway, Farage says he is willing to stand up, like I say, and name him. That, of course, will mean that he can. Once that's named, it's then in the public domain. It means the newspapers can report on it, and once they're reporting him, they'll probably then be able to report on who he has all the dealings with and other information that they may be holding, such as what has been said and whatever. Now, apparently, he was acting with the Duke. The Duke was trying to drum up business with the Chinese and went to China and invested in China. And it makes you wonder at what cost. He was invited to celebrations in the various royal palaces. He was mixing with the nobs, as it were, nobs and nobility. But we know that the Chinese are willing to use anything for espionage, state espionage, which is why, of course, no Chinese goods are allowed in security settings. So, especially America's led the charge on this under Trump, but, he said there's no Chinese goods at all go into computers or technology, routers even, and things like that, cabling, nothing, no Chinese technology whatsoever. It's all got to be homegrown. They don't want it in the cell towers and things like that. They're saying this is critical infrastructure. They don't want the Chinese involved because they would absolutely like to listen into everything. There's no transparency, of course. The state are covering it up. And this anonymity has to be lifted. There should be no anonymity. There should be clear and open borders. Parliament has a right to know because the royals are involved, and so therefore the country has a right to know as well. It's ludicrous, I think, for this person to remain anonymous, especially if that anonymity does not extend to the safety of the Chinese man, but to the protection of those at the top who will have been perceived to have committed treason. It's amazing how many people are calling for this. In Duncan Smith, as I say, is calling for it. George Fuchs, Lord Fuchs, he's calling for all sorts of things. And it's going, I think this is a story that's going to echo through the corridors of power for quite some time. If the courts don't lift it, Farage will, I think. And I think he might do it tomorrow when Parliament gets back to work. So, fingers crossed. Thanks a lot. Bye.